Yo, I hope you guys are all doing well. Today, I'm on Black Ops 3, and no, the title has nothing to do with this game. I'm just on this game for fun. It's actually the client here. You know how Black Ops 2 has the Plutonium client, where it's basically like the modded version without the cheaters or any of the weird stuff you have to deal with like on console or anything. This is actually a version that's still being made right now for Black Ops 3. I've been playing it for a while, but I'm just gonna be playing it today because Warzone is in the gutter, Modern Warfare 2 is in the gutter, 2019. Basically every COD before Modern Warfare 2 is unplayable right now, so I thought I'd hop on one of the GOATs. It's top 3 for sure. I know people aren't gonna like that opinion because it's a jetpack game, but this is top 3 in my opinion. Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, top 3 for sure. Man, this game is so pretty. Even like now, this game's held up so well for being like 8 years old. I still think this is like one of my favorite CODs of all time, even though it is a jetpack game. I don't think we could ever do another jetpack game again. I think the skill gap is way too high, but it's nice for going back every once in a while. But today, it actually has nothing to do with this game or any game that you might even be thinking of. The game I'm talking about being delayed, the game that was supposed to basically save Call of Duty. I feel like Call of Duty needed this game so badly, and it's just been delayed even more. A lot of people come into my Twitch chats and ask me when SM2 is coming out, like I'm a developer or anything, but I actually have no idea when it's coming out. I'm in the Discord and everything, and not like super active in there, but I do kind of try to keep up when I can. A couple days ago, they put out a blog post because they hadn't made an update on the game and since January 1st of 2023, and basically they were just showing off how they had every gun and all the animations. They had, I think, over like 100 guns. It was a very long video. They had a lot of animations. It seems like they basically had everything done other than maybe like maps or smaller versions of content, but they put out a blog post basically saying they needed to talk. And when the blog headline is "we need to talk," it's usually not a good thing. But they had basically said in this blog post that over the last 8 months, the whole project basically just became about being able to make it work. And that doesn't mean like the game wasn't working. It's more because of the fact that they're using the Modern Warfare 2 2009 engine. And I'm not sure how many of you played that game, but that game is very, very old. That game came out all the way back out in 2009, which is a very, very long time ago. And you guys know that every year computers are still getting better and better. Engines are becoming more advanced, more complex, but also easier to use. So with them having to deal with an engine from back in 2009, there was a lot of limitations. And one of those limitations was it being 32-bit. They basically had to finesse their way into getting things to work, like having multiple attachments and multiple things on a gun in a class. So that was one of the biggest things I had to work with. And because of those issues, they basically can't make the game the way they wanted to. And it's a big deal breaker, even for a lot of people on the development team, because they wanted the game, they preferred the Modern Warfare 2 engine for 2 reasons. They liked the way it played, and they are also very, very familiar with the engine, because that game has been getting modded forever. But now they've had to switch it over because of how complex things had to get. And the engine they decided to pick was the H1 engine. And you guys have probably never heard of this engine before, but it's basically the Modern Warfare remastered engine. I don't know if this is true. This is kind of just my own interpretation of it, but I do believe that's like the AW engine. The only reason I think that is because I remember there was like a bug where your character would be spectated kind of like Advanced Warfare. I thought there was just like a lot of little similarities, but I also haven't played that game in like 10 years. So but yeah, they basically hadn't focused on any content in 8 months. And for those last 8 months, they were just struggling with the game, trying to get it to work. And they basically had to almost code everything that you would expect in a normal Call of Duty. But actually, before I get into any more of the issues, again, if you're not aware what SM2 is, it stands for surreal mod. It's basically Call of Duty Online or Call of Duty Mobile on PC. But that's the main reason I don't play Call of Duty Mobile, is because I just don't like mobile games. I'd rather play with a controller, mouse, and keyboard. I actually don't mind either. Just, I can't play a game with my fingers on my phone. So that's what everyone was really excited for, especially when Vanguard was out, because the game was also in the gutter. People just didn't like the game. So having a game like that is extremely important. They had basically the best of every Call of Duty. They had all the maps, all the guns, just a great mix of everything. I made a whole video on it if you want to check it out. There's even gameplay where they were playing a Modern Warfare 3 map on Modern Warfare 2 Search and Destroy with Black Ops 3 weapons. It's actually like a crazy mashup. But again, some of the biggest issues they had trying to make this game on such an old engine was something like memory. So since the game is so old and the engine is so old, it was a 32-bit engine or application they had to deal with. And for people who don't know, with 32 bits, you're only allocated to 4 gigabytes of RAM. If you don't know what RAM is, it's like a stick that basically tells your computer how much memory it can hold, how many things it can do at once. When you open up a bunch of tabs on Chrome, it just starts slowing down your computer. That's because the RAM is being put into overdrive. You know, there's not a lot of space left. So basically, there's a lot of complexity to newer games that people will be expecting. A lot of things that games even have today, but you know, weren't a thing back in Modern Warfare 2. So with this 32-bit application, there wasn't a lot of complexity to be had in the game, which was a big issue. Basically, 4 gigabytes of RAM just didn't give them a lot of leg room to work with or even make anything, you know? It basically just made them had to go around things to get, like, just even, like, the littlest of things done, which is obviously not going to be good for a game they plan to expand on, update, and, you know, even just get working in the first place. Because there's a lot of, like, small mechanics and things they had to add in such an old game. 4 gigabytes of RAM was just never going to be enough. And one way they tried to get around it was doing something called image streaming to basically use like the least amount of RAM as possible. But even with their own version of image streaming in the game, they still basically weren't able to get enough. to where it would make a difference and be able to be a good experience for everyone and for the development team. So that's completely understandable. Again, I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed by this, but I actually don't care. The engine doesn't really matter to me, and I think it being on H1's engine is better than being on Modern Warfare 2's engine. What I am worried about is how it's going to feel, because I'm not going to lie, MWR just didn't feel that good. You know, it felt kind of clunky. If you think Modern Warfare 2 feels clunky, I feel like that game might be a little bit more clunky, because I feel like most of the issues for Modern Warfare 2 is just the animation times and like little delays they add on purpose. It's not really like an engine thing, but I am a little bit worried in that aspect. But I'm extremely excited that we're going to be playing a game with good graphics, because I'm not sure if you guys are even aware. I don't know if anyone really made a whole lot of videos about them, but they actually did do an H1 plutonium mod, which is just basically cracking the game, adding a bunch of server support, all that good stuff. Because MWR, when it came out on PC, was a disaster. There was no custom servers, no mod support. It was worse than the console version, which usually shouldn't be the case for a PC port. So they basically had to go through a lot to even get the plutonium working. And for me, day one was not working at all. It was not a good experience for anyone. It ran really bad. It just wasn't a fun experience for me, especially with it being such an old game. It just wasn't worth it. And I'm hoping the SM2 team can really work through this and make the game feel good, because the game already looks great. It's MWR. The game is aged fine, because even Modern Warfare 2 looks fine, but it's going to look even better, because I don't think a lot of old gen players would have liked the look of Modern Warfare 2 2009. They could have made it look maybe a little bit extra pretty, but still, even with that 32-bit application, I don't think it would have been enough. And another issue that I know people would have lost their mind over with it being on the IW4X engine is the camos. Because of how camos work now, they basically had to almost rework the engine and the shaders for the game, which I'm sure they could have done to make the camos look nice and pretty, but it's just not worth the extra work. So that's basically with this whole engine change is like kind of based around, is that the game engine is just too old, and it's just not worth the extra work that would be put in, because over time it would just be too much. Like, you can't really do much at that point. I think them switching this engine and just making their workflow flow a lot better is going to be better in the long run. It'll get us more content on time, and it might even make the game come out earlier than expected, because I honestly feel like with them working on the IW4X engine, this game probably wouldn't have come out for another year or two at least. It felt like they already knew what they wanted to do with weapons and maps. It was more just getting it all to work in one game. Again, you have to realize this isn't Activision. This isn't a development studio with millions of dollars behind them, but oh my god, no way. Dude, this map was awful because of the wall running. I actually like wall running in this game, and the movement's actually insane. I don't know if you've seen like the grinders on this game doing like the wall bounces and stuff, but this game had extremely underrated movement. I think this game just had too big of a skill gap. But yeah, I do think camos would have been a big deal breaker for a lot of people, because you don't want to use like boring old dull camos, because I'm not trying to like, you know, I'm not trying to give any shade to Modern Warfare 2, but I don't think people would really be happy with an autumn camo anymore. I mean, we want camos like this. This game had some goated camos. Unfortunately, you did have to get them through supply drops, but I mean, dude, the camos in this game were good. I wish Treyarch still made the cosmetics for every game, because they did such a good job with Black Ops 4, Cold War, and Black Ops 3. It's just like a lot of nice little things that I think are going to make a big difference, because I would always worry about SM2 coming out at the wrong time, and it just kind of failing because people either like the new game out, or whatever the case might be, just the game being a little bit too old for the newer generation of players, because people actually care a lot about graphics. People so complain about how Modern Warfare 2 looks inferior to Modern Warfare 2019, and I kind of understand why people say that. I think it's more the art style than the actual graphics, but I get it. Like, graphics, animations, the whole feel is a big deal to people, and I think them having this new engine to work with is going to be a big step up for people. And honestly, it makes me more excited from the game than I was before, because I feel like they have a bigger scale than they had before. I feel like people don't realize how much harder it is to make games now, just because of how much more detail and how many more things go into a game. And that's like my whole point, is that this development studio is doing this all for free and all for fun at the same time, because they legally can't charge money for this game, or else Activision would get on them immediately and probably shut down the game. But again, you guys have to realize this is just a team of people doing this out of their own passion and fun. And it does worry me that a lot of the devs mainly were doing this mod because it was on the IW4 engine. I don't know if a lot of people are going to leave the project or anything, but I'm just worried about the future of the game. I'm hoping this game still has the support from the developers and they still want to work on the game. Another thing this new engine will kind of improve for the game as well as the UI. And I know a lot of people hate the new UI in a game like Modern Warfare 2, for example. But basically what they had to do with every game up until Black Ops 2 is work with Quake. Because I'm not sure if you guys know, but Call of Duty is based off of the Quake engine. And dealing with the UI in that game was not fun. But yeah, they basically had to reinvent the wheel when it came to UI, because they just basically had to put bandages on the game for stuff that just wasn't possible at the time, or wasn't even worth investing time or money or resources into at the time. So, and the devs for SM2 hadn't even gotten to the point where they could do the back end stuff. So that could have been another big problem for them, is even getting the game to work correctly for everyone. So I think them kind of getting ahead of everything instead of having to deal with it when they were too far in is definitely the better move here for sure. Another thing they went through in their blog was that basically if they were able to get all this to work, they were just worried about getting any content afterwards. They were basically just worried that they wouldn't be able to get anything out. just because of how hard it was to get the original game done. If they even were able to, it would just be impossible to get anything out. And, you know, I honestly think if SM2 comes out and doesn't have anything post-launch, it just won't succeed in the long run. I'm sure they plan to have cosmetics to unlock, new things to unlock, new operators, stuff like that, because they've talked about it, whether people want operators or like ghillie suits or anything like that. That's the thing about having a Call of Duty that's basically every Call of Duty is I think Call of Duty is so different to the average person. If you go out in public and be like, hey, what is Call of Duty to you? People will say something like Advanced Warfare. I think Sledgehammer games play so differently than Infinity Ward and even Treyarch games. They all have different philosophies, different map designs, different just game feelings. I think Infinity Ward is always that development studio that just wants people to have fun. Balancing just doesn't matter. It's all about having fun and just playing however you want to play, just kind of catering to casuals. And then Treyarch is always that development studio that cares about fun. Realism doesn't really matter. It's all about gameplay and balance, which I really like. And then Sledgehammer, I don't know what those guys are ever doing. I'm gonna be real, I just don't even think they should be making full-fledged Call of Duties anymore. I'd honestly rather have Raven making them, because I think they have a much better track record of listening to the community, at least when it's time. Because I do think Sledgehammer listens, I just always think it's way too late. So I'd honestly rather just have Sledgehammer as the support studio. I mean, even Raven could probably make their own game. I don't know, I just always like the way they treat their community. But they had basically said with how the game was going and looking, even if they were able to get it out, that it just wasn't looking like it was going to be possible. And it had gotten so bad and they were so worried about this, they even thought about just taking content out of the game completely, which is not a good look, because I think games nowadays, they need just a super steady amount of content. You know, dropping a lot of content at once. I'm not saying drip feed, you know, but just having steady drops of content is extremely important. I think a game having mod support, I'm not sure if they'll do it, because it seems like they don't even want to have a game where you can unlock all. It's just a game where you unlock things like you would normally with a normal Call of Duty. It's not like Plutonium where you just press one button to unlock everything. It'd be an actual game towards progression and, you know, just playing like a normal COD, like a new COD release. But yeah, I feel like a lot of time would have been wasted having to scrap. I think a lot of the game would be lost if they had to go back on their scale and just the ideas they had for the game, because I feel like these guys have a very big scale and idea for the game. I honestly hope it doesn't fail. I don't want like any game to fail, even a Call of Duty's. Like, I want every game to be good. Oh my god, what did that guy just say in chat? But yeah, I want every game to be good. I want everyone to, you know, have their own COD experience. I don't think there's anything wrong with liking games like Vanguard or Modern Warfare 2. I really don't. Like, I think it's okay to like things, but I think this is just a sad situation, because people have been so excited and been wanting this for so long, and they always said don't expect a release date, and I think this just might make people extremely angry, which makes me sad, because I feel like devs are not going to get the good side of the stick here, even though they're just doing this for the game to be better. It's good that they still trust in the game's potential, but basically the whole idea of the blog was them just being honest with you guys, which I like, because a lot of development studios even today aren't honest about it. Usually the only way you find out about this stuff is just going to like a dev's Twitter, and maybe they just talk about it privately, but Call of Duty usually just tweets out about bundles and nothing else, which is, I guess, understandable. They got to get that stock price up somehow. And when it came to the new engine, they were just kind of talking about how they're no longer going to be limited to 4 gigabytes of RAM, which I think is huge, because nowadays, like, even Warzone, bro, if you don't have at least like 16 gigabytes of RAM, your game's just not going to run well. I do think they're going to have to do like a lot of optimizing when it comes to the H1 engine, which is fine. You know, like, I want this game to be accessible to everyone. It's obviously going to be harder to run than a game from 2009, but I think in the long run, most people who have a computer nowadays, at least a gaming computer, will be able to run a game from 2016, because I'm sure they'll do their best to optimize it and make it look good while also running good as well. And they basically said without this limit on the RAM, they're just going to be able to completely focus on content, which is, you know, something we always want to hear, because people complain about the content we have now in Modern Warfare 2, and I feel like that's kind of valid. I know there's a lot of different experiences like Warzone and DMZ that are technically content, but I think a lot of the people who play multiplayer just do not care. A lot of people just don't touch Warzone or DMZ. I don't really touch Warzone, but I actually do like DMZ, but I just don't think it's going to be for the 6v6 player. I just don't think that's ever going to interest a multiplayer player, which is like fine. I think having different experiences for different people is good, but I do feel like 6v6 players have been left behind almost. One of the best things that comes with H1 being the new engine is being able to port maps they wouldn't have been able to on the old engine. And they basically said that they would retain most of the original map pool, but have even more to choose from just because of the possibilities of the new engine, which is, you know, always good to hear. And obviously, now that it's a new engine, it's going to look better aesthetically, but also visually. You know, it's going to be a big overhaul. If you ever played Crash on Modern Warfare 2 versus Crash on MWR, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. One of the things they actually talked about in this blog post that might make you old heads happy is they're actually going to make the H1 engine play as close as possible to the OG MW2 engine. I'm not sure how easy or how true that's going to be. Honestly, I don't really care. I think as long as the game has the best parts of Call of Duty, which for me would be like having good strafe speed. One of my biggest problems with like the older CODs is when you ADS with an AR or even sometimes SMGs, you just can't can move. So I think, you know, balancing an old COD with some of the newer aspects of Call of Duty would be a huge thing, especially for these new players. I don't think they're gonna add slide canceling or sliding at all. So if you're even thinking the movement's gonna be crazy like that, don't bother. I'm sure they're gonna have stuff like Marathon Pro or like Dexterity or something like that. So you're obviously gonna be able to move quickly, but if you think you're gonna be cameraing people like that, you just weren't watching the same videos as I, you know, because obviously I don't think that's where they're going for. These guys are working with an old engine because they love Modern Warfare 2, and I don't think anyone playing Modern Warfare 2 is doing that, which is okay. I do think a game like this, even like the movement would get out of hand. If you see the way people play this game originally versus the way they play it now, it's absolutely insane. Because in this game, YYing actually has, you know, use to it. You slide faster and farther with a YY in between. They don't have any content or anything to share with us regarding, you know, the new H1 engine or even the new SM2 if you want to call it that. Just because they're so busy trying to put everything into the new engine, it's going to take a while before we see anything, but I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be like a huge overhaul, hopefully visually and audio. I think audio is going to be a big deal for this game, but I'm sure the UI and everything will look good too. Because I already think the UI looked really good for the OG SM2, which made me happy. I think everyone's problems nowadays is just like they make so many weird changes to the COD that I just feel like they don't make sense. Because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it seems like they just make changes for the sake of making changes, which is a very, very unfortunate situation. They also went on in the blog post to say that hardware limitations won't be a big deal just because even like low spec PCs today should be able to run the game, which I hope to be the case because I know some people with some ancient PCs. And honestly, I understand completely if you guys don't really care about the game or think this is just never coming out. That's completely understandable. I personally do trust in the team. They seem like a cool team of people who don't have any malintentions. You know, it's not like they're charging people money or promising you guys anything. It's just a fun little project for them that I think turned into something way bigger than they thought ever would be. I think it turned into something a lot bigger than they thought it would ever be. They probably have a lot of pressure on them right now to make a good game. I'm just worried that people are going to expect way too much and be very disappointed and be very toxic. I feel like people are thinking like, you know, like a bunch of Call of Duty devs are working on this who are going to give this game like one chance and be like, yeah, it's not Modern Warfare 2, it's not 2019. I can't, why cancel? I'm not playing the game. Huh. No, I was. What are we not playing? But honestly, I just don't mind waiting for this game, you know? I think Call of Duty will always be there, whether it's main releases or mods. I just hope this game comes out at the right time when the Call of Duties are really in a slump. I think if SM2 came out in like the last year or so, I think it would have been a huge success just because of the fact that no one's been happy with how COD's been going. Honestly, I just feel bad for the devs, bro. They're probably getting cooked. It sucks to have all that work you just did kind of go nowhere and you kind of have to almost start from scratch. I know they don't have to. I'm not sure if they have like a gameplay director or designer. I'm not sure what like philosophy they're going or if they're just doing stuff for fun or they're actually trying to balance the game. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but I've actually wanted to interview or, you know, hop on a podcast with that guy. I'm not sure who it would be, but I know Simon over there is like kind of like the main guy from what I could tell. If you guys would ever be interested, just let me know and I'd love to have that guy on or whoever that person might be because I actually wonder a lot like how they plan on balancing things, how they plan on dropping things, how they even plan to, you know, keep the game alive even. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about the game. Let me know if you're still going to be interested in or even following it, but I'll probably make updates every here and there. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.